What?
A fun, unique podcast taking you behind the badge. Unbelievable stories exploring the day in the life of a first responder. 911 is made possible by Carlos Bail Bonding and Eric Buchanan and Associates, fighting for those that have been denied disability, life, long-term care, and health benefits nationwide. Now, here's your host, DeMarlon Dean.
Welcome to this episode of 911. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we are in for a treat today. Today, my guest is Zach Cortese, so it's kind of tricky pronunciation there, but you may recognize that name. If you're a TikToker, you know, I like to interview TikTok cops, and this guy is no exception. He has you have over 1 million followers right now on TikTok, correct?
Yeah, 1.1 or something like that.
Yeah, 1 million here and there, something like that. But he's a lot more than a TikTok cop. He's been a field training officer, a taser instructor. He's already been a background investigator, even been on the crisis intervention team. And he served on the county DUI task force and the railroad task force. So we're going to take a quick break and have a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Zach Cortese and find out what makes him tick. We'll be right back. You know how frustrating it is to pay your insurance premiums for anything, your home, your car, and you have some type of accident or some type of catastrophe occurs, and then the insurance finds reasons not to pay you. It's really, really frustrating, isn't it? Imagine that same scenario when it comes to your disability insurance. Now, you've actually gone and got extra disability insurance through whether, it's through your employer or you went on a private market and bought this insurance in case you had some type of disability that prevented you from doing your job. And then something unfortunate happens and you can't do your job anymore. You call the insurance company and guess what? They deny your claim for something that's just ridiculous. That's when you need to call Eric Buchanan and Associates. They will come to your aid, review your claim, and fight for your rights that you've been paying for. Take this, for instance. There was a gentleman that had been paying their disability premiums for years, and he was a contractor. So he built homes, built houses, built all kinds of things. And he had a debilitating head injury that prevented him from doing that. And he was denied his claim because of, guess what? He was making sandwiches. Can you believe that? He was helping his daughter make sandwiches for a business that she started. He even had to write some of the recipes on the wall so that he wouldn't forget them himself. And they said, if you can make sandwiches, surely you can build a house. Come on now. So if something like that happens to you, call Eric Buchanan and Associates. Their number is 877-634-2506. Again, that's 877-634-2506. Or you can look them up online, buchanandisability.com. That's buchanandisability.com, BUCHANAN disability.com. You won't regret it. So Zach, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to be with us. I know I kind of talked about some of the things that you've already done, and I want you in your own words to just kind of introduce yourself, what you're about, and maybe even tell us why you decided to become a police officer in the first place.
Yeah. So like you said, my name is Zach Cortese. I'm from Laurel, Montana. Grew up in Antioch, California, and I moved up here when I was 14. I'm 28 years old. I got my bachelor's degree from Northwestern College. Played baseball for a little bit. Wanted to do pro ball, and that it just didn't work out. I got hurt and needed to make some money and pay off some loans. But I studied criminal justice growing up. Probably when I was 21, because you asked when I decided I want to become a cop. I got my generals done, needed to pick a major, kind of shifting thought I wanted to do communications and get into broadcasting, but turns out just wasn't it. So I thought about something that is new every day. It's challenging. Not a lot of people could do. It's like baseball. I like a challenge. It's a hard sport to master or even be good at. So I decided to study criminal justice. Loved what I was studying and teachers and instructors, and then decided to start applying all over Montana to be a police officer. Didn't work out. I started at a prison for about 3 months, and before that I was a mental healthcare or a mental youth counselor at the Boys and Girls Ranch in Yellowstone County.
That's very cool. Yeah, you kind of went the opposite route of me. I was a police officer first, and then now I'm in communications. I actually work at a group of radio stations here. I'm general sales manager at a group of radio stations here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And people always say, you know, how in the world did you get into sales? Because, you know, especially people that knew I was a police officer. And I'm like, the question is, how did I get into policing? Because I'd always been in some form of sales. And then the opportunity to become a police officer came available, and I took it. But you mentioned a couple of things there that probably, even though you didn't do it very long, it probably gave you some good experience into some of the things that you would do. I mean, being a youth, working with a mental, did you say like the youth part, you said mentally challenged, or was it more behavioral type things?
So, somewhere it was more behavioral. That was like the last step before, you know, the juvenile correction system or jail or what have you.
Yeah, so that would be good experience, as well as jail. You know, working in the jails or prisons or whatever is going to be great experience for, you know, learning how to deal with folks, you know, out on the street for sure.
Yeah, it was a women's prison too, so you can only imagine.
Oh, so you were there for 3 years?
No, 3 months.
3 months. Yeah,
I couldn't make it three. No, not 3 years.
So this isn't. I know I didn't prep you for this, but what's the craziest thing you saw in the women's prison?
Oh man. The craziest thing I've seen or had said to me.
Okay, yes, both.
I mean, it's just kind of hard for anything crazy, just your typical, you know, fights, stuff like that. But I mean, I couldn't. You get catcalled all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's any male. So I mean, I'd walk away from a cell and they would just scream, "Damn, that ass!" And just. Very so it was very not self-conscious, but just, you know, you got used to it. You had that thick skin to work in a place like that.
Yeah.
It did help my communication skills, which was key to, you know, the people that I deal with, my clientele on a daily basis. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a few of your TikToks. You do have some junk in that trunk.
Yeah. It's that squat rack. It's the baseball, you know, workouts and all that stuff from back in the day.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, you see these pro baseball players. I mean, they have some thick legs. I mean, that's where all the power comes from the swing, of course. So, that's really funny. So, aspirations of being a pro baseball player, and now you're a pro police officer.
Yeah.
So, what made you start doing TikTok videos? How'd you even get into that?
I mean, I have 3 younger brothers, and one of them always was sending me these TikTok things. Like, what the hell is this? It's like, oh, you got to download it. You'll spend hours on it. They're so funny. And the videos were funny, but I just put it off. And then finally, when COVID hit and everything was shut down in March 2020, I was on days off, and I decided, okay, I'll download it. And it was funny looking through it. I was like, do some of these. It'd be kind of fun. So I did one. I got like 100,000 views or something. I was like, oh, interesting. And then I did one. Got a few million, and then it kind of just took off from there. But you talk to anyone that knows me, they know I'm kind of a laid back, but also a goofy individual.
Yeah. I think it's a common thread that you see a lot with police officers. You have to have a sense of humor, at least to last and, you know, really do yourself and your community any good. Because if you don't have a sense of humor and a way to kind of get rid of some of this stress, you'll never make it.
Yeah, especially with some of the stuff you see with your fellow brothers and sisters, you kind of have more of a dark humor that isn't necessarily for the general public, but yeah, with the public, yeah, you need to laugh and need to be goofy. You can't lose that goofiness and go over to the dark side, because that's where you see the alcohol abuse, depression, you know, things like that. So.
Right. And it's unfortunate that sometimes a misplaced joke gets out there, because it happens. You know, you'll say something not thinking anybody's recording, and it certainly was not meant for general public, and it can look awful. I remember one of my very first calls. I was still in training. I was still in FTO, and we got a call to go for DOA. Someone had been murdered, and we get there, and I go in. I think I'm the first or second person in the door. And when I walk in the door, there's a dead gentleman laying right in the door. I almost tripped over him, and he literally had a hatchet in his head which was first thing that got my attention. I was like, wow, he had a hatchet and his leg had been cut off. And I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my goodness, thinking to myself, this dude's had a leg cut off. And well, it turns out he was an amputee. So it actually hadn't been cut off. I didn't know. And so I was told to secure the perimeter. So I was checking people in and out, as they were going into the crime scene. And I was standing at the fence talking to another officer that was not in the crime scene. And he had just told me a joke. And so I was laughing at his joke. Well, guess what is on the front page of the newspaper the next day? Officer Dean at a crime scene, yada. And they didn't say anything about me by name, but my picture was there and me laughing at this guy's joke. And here's the headline: murder in this part of our community. And I'm like, oh, that looks so awful. But fortunately, this was a long time ago. This was in the early 90s. But I learned a very important lesson. Then you have to kind of be on at all times. So I see as I read through the notes getting ready for this that you served as a DUI task force, so you always see crazy things as it relates to DUIs. So let's talk about some of those crazy things that you've seen related to DUIs that you've had to deal with in your years on the force.
Well, the only one that you talking about, like a funny one.
Yeah, right. This is, whatever. We can go funny, we can go crazy, we can go wherever.
The funny, grossest one was this lady she got a DUI maybe a week before I pulled her over. And I didn't even pull her over. I did pull her over, but the report came in, she was driving on the sidewalk. Right. And so pull her over, go up there, just smells of wine. And there's a box of just plush stuff in the passenger seat, and it just reeks, and it smells like alcohol, and also smells like crap. So I get her out and run her through, and she's toasted. And so I do my thing. She's under the influence, so I put her in the back of my squad car, and I drive her to the station to go book her. And, I open the door, and it just smells like crap. And she goes, and she's wearing like something white, and she had crap on the back of her pants. And so sit her down and interviewing her, and it's just smelling like someone just defecated the whole time. And then on the way to the jail, I think more came out because it got stronger. So after, there was nothing like all over the back of the seat, but I saw that, cleaned it, so. But that was just one of those. Oh, this almost isn't perfect.
You mean you didn't have anyone come clean it for you? You had to clean it out yourself? Yeah,
I didn't. If it was really bad, like, hey, get some of your good behavioral inmates to come out here, please. But that was the one where you're just like, that was like.
Yeah, nothing like a ride to jail smelling wine and crap the whole way.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Now I'm reading one about pepper spray, like a fog spray. So this is different than, when you push the trigger and it just a stream comes out. So let's talk about that. First of all, kind of describe what the fog spray is. And then, this particular fight that you had to deal with. I think it was a guy with a gun and fog spray. And
yeah, this is my last day, my last shift at FTO. So I was 6 months on maybe. And so the pepper spray, you got your streamer, which just lines out, a liquid stream, and you got your gel, which I carry, which hits the face and kind of expands. Mm-hmm. Then you have the fogger, which is kind of goes out, but it expands. It's meant for like a room. So this guy, he got drunk at the bar, and he was a contract worker or something with the refinery in town, and he's drinking. He got into a verbal altercation with the gentleman at the bar. They called him a scab, which I don't know what that means. Apparently it's not good. He took offense. He drove his motorcycle home, go grab his rifle, was going to go and shoot the guy, and the only thing stopping him was his wife in the garage, and the neighbors called in a domestic dispute.
Wow.
Me and my field training officer, who's in plain clothes, that's the last phase, get there with another officer, and he just has his rifle slung over his shoulder, and he's yelling at us. And then our captain gets there as we're still trying to get him to, slowly put down the rifle. He's not listening. He's getting fidgety. Our captain tries to talk to him. Nothing's working. He's getting more fidgety. So he's in the garage and he's around the corner, poking his head in the garage, trying to talk to him. And I can see him get the fogger out. And then he sprays him and it direct contacts him, but he tries to run inside. So Captain goes after him and all of us do, and we just run right into the fog, and we were just tackling this guy blind. And our captain's like, yeah, I was trying to wrestle around for the rifle, and I think it was like right in my face, like, oh shit! Oh. And he got it out of there. It turned out that there was no bullets, or not a bullet loaded in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we get out of there. We have him in cuffs. We're all just runny eyes, snots going down.
Yeah,
we're rubbing our faces. Yeah, rubbing his face. It was a nightmare. I'm trying to drive him to the jail. That was like I had the least spit. I was the one that got the least front of the fogger, and so I'm riding into the jail with one eye. It was a mess.
That is, and that could have been. You can laugh about it now because it's funny, but gosh, that could have been really bad. Him pulling the trigger, or one of you guys grabbing the trigger if you couldn't see and having a round chambered, and that would have been not good.
Yep,
not good. And then you had after the lady that pooped herself, another drunk driver. You had one that's like looks like he's just crashed into a ditch.
Yeah. Don't drink and drive, people. This is a different individual. But yeah, this guy was a crack. Just went off. It was icy out, I remember, and he took the corner too hard, and he slid in an irrigation ditch. And he just was kind of on the side, not on the side of the truck, but it was like slanted to where if he opens the door, someone's easily going to fall out. So I get there, and he opens the door. He just like waves at me, and then all of a sudden I just see him disappear into the irrigation ditch. He's just slurring his words. On my body, can hear me chuckle as he falls.
So he just like falls backwards, falls on his back as he's trying to get out of the car.
No, he just he just gets out. He's like, hey, and then he just see his head go and his legs flail, and he falls out. I was like, oh, this is like your icing on the cake, DUI, and yeah, sure is it. He was under the influence, so we put him in jail. And during that encounter, I've spoken to his wife on other calls before, and I don't think he's had a drop of alcohol since or got. I think he's sober now, so that was a wake up call for him.
That's good.
Yeah.
So do a lot of the people that you, well, I guess in a small town, people probably know you and recognize you anyway, whether or not you're on TikTok, but it'd be kind of weird if they didn't know you and you stop and like, hey, wait a minute, you're the TikTok cop.
Yeah, I just get that maybe from like the high schoolers or something, but no, they just know me from dealings.
Gotcha. Now this one, I was reading through this and this kind of is scary. So like, I know as a police officer, for me, the two things that I hated were one, working an accident on the interstate. Hated it because you have people don't give you enough room and they're zipping right by you, trucks and everything way too close. And two, domestic situations. Because you get called there for a situation and the spouse that called you ends up flipping and turning on you and wanting to fight you and everything else, even though they called you there to begin with. But you've outlined one here that was a domestic abuse between a husband and wife. Now, was this the one where the wife was on meth as well, or is this two different calls? Because
this sounds like the same one, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was about a year on, a year or a year and a half on. Call came in. You could rent these storage units. It was in a big storage unit, and the call came in saying my wife is trying to harm herself. She's has a knife, and she's high on methamphetamine. Get there with my partner, and I could hear some commotion inside. Wait for him. Open the door. She immediately turns and sees us and starts to bolt. There's an RV in there, old RV. So she goes into this RV. Husband follows her, screaming that she's got a knife. She went to go get the steak knife to stab herself in the stomach to try to kill herself. So he's behind her trying to hold it. And this RV is pitch black. I have my taser out. My partner goes in first. And all I hear him say is, because he gets in there because we can't use deadly force. It's not enough. There's no room for the taser. Can't pepper spray. It's kind of a go in there. So he went in there hands on. All I hear him say is, "She's cutting me. She's cutting me." And she was holding my partner's hand, and I'm in there. I can't. It's just a black mosh pit of just people. So I get in there and I grab her legs, pull her from underneath, and she eventually falls, hits her head, and drops the knife. Grab the knife and throw it away. And then and then we get her to the car, and she's screaming and hollering. She's just tweaked out of her mind, and she actually spit on the other officer that was on shift.
Oh.
So, and then I had to go lights and sirens all the way to the jail because she was just losing it back there.
Wow.
But yeah, that was the first scenario where I was just like, oh, like your kind of oh shit moment. Like this could have went very different. So, yeah, that was the domestics are the most dangerous and the most cautious. Each one's different. None of them are the same. So, especially when you throw meth in there, it's just not good for anyone. So, it winded up. He was fine. He had a couple slashes across his hand, and he had to get a couple tetanus shots, but we were fine.
Yeah, those are awful. Just dealing with domestics, because they can just go bad real fast and in a hurry. So what, like I said, for me, the calls that I hate the most are traffic or wrecks on the interstate and domestics. What about you? What calls do you hate to answer?
Probably wrecks would be up there, just because the crash reports are a pain in the ass. And then dead body calls easily.
Hopefully you don't have a lot of those in a little town of 10,000 folks.
Yeah, more than you think. And then you have the suicides and and the ones that you don't, if you haven't gone on one for say a month, the one, there's a couple. It seems all the ones I go to, they've been there for like 2 weeks, so they don't even look human.
Yeah,
and it's just the smell, and just of course a big lunch, and I'm just wheezy around that type of stuff. So I always try to make the rooks do it if I can, but every now and then you gotta just.
The strange thing is the more they look inhuman, the easier it is for me to deal with it, because it was for me, because again, it didn't realize, okay, that doesn't even look like a person. I remember when we first, part of what we had to do when I went through, we actually witnessed an autopsy. And so you're first in there in the medical examiner's office, and there's this body laying there, and you're like, I don't want to get anywhere near that. But then I won't go into gross detail, but they do the things that they do, and pretty soon you're not even seeing the face anymore, and you're looking at the insides. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is biology now, or whatever. This is anatomy. This is no longer a body. So it was easier for me to deal with it. I always had the thing, like if it was someone like someone that was recently deceased, I'm always like, I don't really want to check for a pulse. What if they're not dead? What if they jump up and get me? The horror movies are going through the back of my mind. So I hated those types of calls.
It's just not normal, because a vast majority of the population doesn't see that stuff.
Right.
It's not meant. Humans aren't meant to see suicides. And you're just like amazed what the body does after the heart's no longer beating. It's just, I don't know how people can become coroners, because it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
They asked me to move, and I'm like, I guess I'll help you.
So you think cops have dark humor? Coroners, those guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really. And from what I understand, they have huge. They're huge partiers too. They have these big conventions, funeral director conventions. I hear those things are a blast. So I guess that's where they let it all out, is at their conventions.
They must.
Yeah. Let's see. So gun calls with drunks, and you said that happens a lot with you?
I mean, it's Montana. Everyone's got a gun.
Yeah, that's true.
Gun or a knife on them. But yeah, just drunk fights at the bar. They wind up just having a gun on them or a big knife. I've had someone come at me with just a huge, like 10-inch knife. Not come at me like charged, but they're like a block away. They know it's the police, and then they drop it. But I'm just like, if this guy charges at me,
yeah,
in winter he's wearing a coat. I'm not trying to tase him because that's not going to be effective.
Right.
So it's just kind of, you just think about what could. You always think worst case.
Sure, and I guess if you're in a situation like Montana, where the majority of people, it seems, have guns, do you think that keeps you safer because you treat every single person, you assume that they have a gun, which that's good to do anyway, and a lot of people feel like that's being aggressive when a police officer is treating you like that, but that's actually good to make sure that you're safe. But some people say when everybody's armed, you treat everybody a little differently, and it's actually safer versus fewer people are armed and you get caught by surprise that someone was armed. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's why I just assume everyone has either a weapon on their person, because you can conceal carry here without a permit, or it's in their car or something. And I'm talking, I'm a good BSer. I'm cordial with them. I'm, laid back, but I'm constantly looking at the waistband, hands, what they're fidgeting with. Where's the bulk in they're concealing, and where's the bolt, or just trying to find something, or just constantly just looking down there. Mm-hmm. Continue to carry the conversation, keep it loose, not trying to be, militaristic, but sometimes obviously with certain individuals you have to be, but so I treat everyone is everyone the same pretty much.
Yeah.
As far as that.
What I hear you saying is you treat everyone the same, of course, but you try to go in with lighthearted attitude to keep the situation low, because you can. One thing that I think my last episode we talked to Officer Nate Sylvester, I guess former Officer Nate Sylvester, and one of the things he was saying was, sometimes officers can do a better job of communicating. And I think, and where he was going with that is you're human just like everybody else. Sometimes you have a bad day, but you can go into a situation that's really not that high of a situation. And then by your actions, because you're kind of hyped up or whatever, or you're at a higher level, you can bring everyone up to your level versus staying calm and just, keeping the situation where it is calm. So that sounds like, a lot of what you're doing, trying to keep them distracted, making sure you're alert, but not to the point where you're raising their antennas, where they're starting to get, kind of getting their backs up, like, wait, what's going on, or get an indication that you really are, checking them out and making sure that they are not armed.
Yeah, each situation is different. Like a normal a normal traffic stop. Unless I'm pulling them out for something, if they have warrants or they're under the influence, obviously I'm just gonna be, hey, you mind if I pat you down? You sure have any weapons, bazookas, anything like that on you? Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. You just do that. But I mean, your traffic stop, you're just looking in the console, looking at their hands right away. Got anything tucked underneath trying to see, just looking around when they're going in the glove box, just making sure there's no like obvious weapons there, and just
Yeah, that's good. That's just good officer safety. So now you've got a note here about a guy that stole a car because he thought after a certain amount of time it was free game. Come on now.
He didn't steal it. He attempted to steal it, but neighbors had a Ring doorbell, and the person whose car it was in jail. And this individual and him they did not so good things together. But he called in from jail stating that his car window was smashed, radio was stolen, and then the neighbors called and said they see this pickup in like 3 a.m. trying to tow this Tahoe away. And I recognized the individual, and I got a hold of him and was trying to see his side of the story, and he gave me some story like, oh, I got permission, I was just trying to get it out of the snow in that area. And I was like, so at 3 a.m, you just wanted to, out of the kindness of your heart, go and move that car with a tow rope while it's in park in the dead of winter. Yeah. Oh, how stupid that sounds. And it turned, and then he was, I thought, city ordinance, after, you leave a vehicle for 5 days, it was kind of free game. Like, no, if you have moved a vehicle 120 feet in 5 days, it gets marked for tow, where you have a certain amount of time to move your vehicle to avoid, clutter and just, old vehicles sitting in the same spot.
Sure.
So, that was just, that just kind of opened my eyes. Yeah. How stupid that sounds, right? Some people will tell you crazy things. And, so that one got sent to the city attorney just for criminal mischief and theft charges. We'll see what she has to say about it.
And that was supposedly his buddy or a cohort in crime, I guess, so to speak. He's going to take
the guy, person that was in jail was friends with the suspect's brother, and the brothers always hang out. They were up to no,
That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our other sponsors, and we will be right back to hear some more from Officer Zach Cortese. I want to make sure I pronounce this right. Cortese?
Cortese, yep.
Cortese. We'll be right back with Officer Zach Cortese. So listen, one of the main reasons I started this podcast is to help us all understand what first responders go through, what it's like to be a first responder, some of the decisions they have to make on a day-to-day basis. And in the end, hopefully we can all be better, come away knowing a little bit more about each other, and make this world a better place. And to that end, if you find yourself in a situation where you are facing potential arrest, one of the things I hope you learn from this podcast is to don't fight. Don't try to plead your case there on the street. Don't argue with the officer. Don't fight back. Just go ahead. Let them place you under arrest so that that's the worst that can happen is that you're under arrest. And then let's fight it in court. Call my friends at Carlos Bail Bonding to get you out. That's Carlos Bail Bonding. You can check them out online. They're at bailbondsmanchattanooga.com. That's bailbondsmanchattanooga.com. And you can go to the website and see what all their clients say. You don't want to fight on the side of the street. Just go ahead and be arrested if you have to. Call Carlos. They'll get you out. Then you can get you an attorney and you can fight it in the court of law. You can also give them a call at 475-6383. That's area code 423, of course. 475-6383. And again, that website is bailbondsmanchattanooga.com. Fight in court, not on the side of the street. All right, welcome back to 911 What? We're here with Officer Zach Cortese from Montana, holding things down out in beautiful Montana. Hey, you ever had an encounter with are they buffaloes?
Yeah.
Or is it
bison, buffalo. I don't know the difference.
Hey, wait, you're supposed to know the difference.
I really gotta give me a break. I grew up 14 years in California.
That's right. That's true. Okay, I'll give you a break. I'm in Tennessee, so the only bison I see are on my plate when we eat them, so. Yeah,
all right. No, I've never had any. I've had a bunch of raccoons and some mountain lions roam the area, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm okay with raccoons, but I don't think I want to face a mountain lion. So we all try to be really cool when we're, whatever our job is, but particularly police, you guys are known for being pretty cool. So tell me about maybe you ever had any embarrassing moments on the force?
I don't know. I didn't do anything that embarrassed myself. But I was about 2 years on. And I was trying to grow a mustache. I wanted a cop mustache.
The cop mustache.
Yeah, I thought it was going pretty good. And I was helping this intoxicated pedestrian get up to get in the ambulance, and she kind of rolls over and looks at me and gives me one of these. Get out of here, creepy mustache man. And I just left. It was on body camera, and so the department kind of got a good laugh from all the EMTs. But
so you either creepy.
So I shaved it off. The next day. Now I'm just, Look, I think I look decent with it. A little Freddie Mercury. But
yeah, it does have a little Freddie Mercury.
That's all. I did a another YouTube interview with what do all police officers think the same, and I agree with this. There was probably 50% of the comments were just, "Oh, Freddie Mercury's alive," which was kind of like surprised me because I thought it'd be a bunch of negativity because it was more of a liberal platform, and it was just all, "Oh, Freddie Mercury." I didn't know he was a cop. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whatever could. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned going. One of the things I ask is heart wrenching calls, but you talked about getting called to a school shooting, but fortunately, it actually wasn't. But you can still take me kind of through that process of what your mind was going when you answered what you thought was a school shooting.
Yeah, it just wasn't even that long ago. It was just I was having some lunch and dispatch. I hear 911 come into dispatch, and it's a kid, sounds like a kid. It's like, "Hey, I'm in the bathroom. There's a school shooter going around shooting kids with a Glock." And I was like, "What?" And then I hear him, and then he just starts screaming, like, "Oh my God, he's coming into the bathroom!" So I mean, you just reaction took over. Sprinted to the car. Me, buddies, Emmy, like the highway patrol was all headed there. Getting to the school, we got our rifles out, clearing it, and there's people hiding in some rooms. We're trying to get them clear. I don't hear any gunshots, so that was refreshing. All the school was getting evacuated. Then we just cleared the building, and about 10 minutes in, we were advised it was a fault, more than likely a false alarm. But we still just did our due diligence and cleared the building. But for those 10 minutes, I could hear the heart pounding out of my chest. And, just on the off chance that hey, there might actually be, but it's good a school shooting. But as soon as we entered the building, you didn't hear gunshots or bodies laying everywhere, blood. It calmed me down a little bit, but still, until we got like the okay, like, hey, this is a false alarm.
So was it just somebody playing a joke?
It's still under investigation, so I can't comment too much into it. But it was just basically a kid of another kid might have got suspended or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's awful. And obviously we've had far too many of those, and I could not imagine a situation like that. Because kids, babies, to me, those are the hardest things to deal with when you have, children being abused, and those types of calls are just gut wrenching. There is, I think today in our community, there's at least, I don't know, the media would have you believe that everybody, hates police, or half of America hates police. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe most people support our police. I do think we have some opportunity to do better, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions about police, who you are, what you do. What do you think is a big misconception that you feel like is out there that you'd like to clear up?
Big misconception that people tend to look at us more like robots and not as human beings. Mm-hmm. We're gonna make mistakes, but for the most part, we do a damn good job. It's just those couple pieces of crap that f up, or they get into the policing for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. That gets just eaten up by the media. But I think truly 99 point whatever percent are truly there to help you. Absolutely. And they're good cops. It's just unfortunate that you see media, whenever one screws up, not even that, it's just controversial, and they spin it off as negative.
Right.
Public, especially the youth, that's all they see, and they take it to a whole nother level of just, they're all like that. They don't even know what they're fighting for, or their reasoning for it. I think even regardless if you're Republican or Democrat, I think like the traditional Democrats and Republicans, obviously they want police, then they support police. It's just a small percentage of these radical extremists, I call them, that are just getting blowed up and kind of getting like fed in by these news outlets, because no one wants to just state the facts, instead of telling them that actually most cops do their job, and they help you. They don't do it. They don't want to offend anyone, and it's disheartening to see, and it's really frustrating at times.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes an officer does the right thing and it just looks bad, and you have to. It's like, I use this analogy because it's the best thing I can think of, but it's like war. I mean, it doesn't, sometimes what you have to do to do the job and do it correctly doesn't always look good. But just because it doesn't look good doesn't mean it's not right. If you're get in a fight with a suspect, it is your job to win. It's not your job to be beat up. You don't abuse anybody, but your job is to effect that arrest, place this person under arrest, and do whatever you need reasonably necessary to do that. And I was talking to a gentleman, another police officer. He's been on the force 26 years. He and I were just talking, having a phone call before you and I jumped on, and we were both saying the same thing. I mean, who in their right mind now with the situation that we're in and what the media would have us believe, who would want to be a police officer? And he's like, yeah, that's exactly right. If you pass the psychological profile to be a police officer and all those things, most people are like, you know what, I don't need it. Don't want to do or deal with all the backlash that's coming when it shouldn't, when it's undeserved. And so we can get to a point, I feel like, if we could keep pushing this false narrative, where we're going to be in a situation where the few remaining police, or the few people that are trying to become police, are just those that you described, the ones that are doing it for the wrong reason, power trips and that type of stuff. And we're going to be in a bad situation. So, my hope is that we can kind of get our arms around this and turn this thing around and, obviously expose the bad cops that are out there and deal with them. Unfortunately, a police officer, you make a mistake, it can cost someone's life. And if it is a mistake, truly a mistake, then yes, you have to deal with the consequences of that. But not every time you turn around, it's a race issue, or every time you turn around, this officer is just abusing folks. I believe we have to get away from that. And, some of it, we as police may have brought it on themselves because it is closed for the most part. You kind of keep things to yourself. So some transparency may be needed and may help that, but hopefully we can get to a place where we can build that trust again, so that more people than not feel that security and know that, hey, these guys are here to help me. And
these major cities like Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, it's just that you're doing your citizens a disservice. Violent crime's up like 800% in Portland, 100% or whatever in these liberal cities. In Minneapolis, for example, they're contracting the sheriffs and the state police to come out there because they don't have enough cops to go out there and respond to these violent calls.
Yeah.
And it just baffles me that their city council is trying, unarmed civilian traffic stops or something like that. These like horrible ideas that could go south. I just don't. I mean, the proof's right there. I mean, Portland, Seattle, you can't find who in their right mind would want to start out being a police officer and go to Portland or Seattle, where your command and the public and the city council doesn't support you, and if you screw up, they're going to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, and to that point, it's one of those things where be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And that's kind of what you're seeing in those situations. And what it does, it emboldens the criminals. They know now they can get away with more things. Hey, first of all I've got to do is run. They're not going to chase me. Or, it has to be to a certain level before there's any kind of confrontation. And, and it just, I think a lot of people don't understand is, you talk about, well, let's not do traffic stops. Let's not do XYZ. Let's not do these minor violations. But it's those minor violations that lead to the big arrests. It's that's the most common way to catch big criminals is traffic stops. You stop them for a minor violation, you do your due diligence, and you investigate, and next thing you know, there's 612,000 pounds of cocaine in the trunks.
Yeah, perfect example of this. We had a loitering ban at this business. No harm, no foul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turn it out. So we get there. Turns out that this person just killed someone the night before, and the dead body was in the back of the van.
Oh my goodness.
So he gets in the car and they're high on meth, and they take off. And so we follow him and wind up catching him. He barricades himself, and SWAT actually had to kill him. But his girlfriend was in the car and she got arrested, and it turns out they stole this van from this guy and shot him. And normally if say a call came in like that, no, it's just a loitering, like tell them to just ignore it. It's not worth the altercation. But that's just such a small, mild call, and it turns out, look what it came. It came from two homicide suspects.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what it takes. It's those things like that start and lead to those larger, more important arrests and finding things out. So it's not as simple as, well, just don't stop people for minor violations or whatever. If you have a problem with people, every minor stop turning into an altercation, that's a different story. But the truth of the matter is, most don't. I mean, police affect hundreds of thousands of arrests with no incident, and it just doesn't make the news because there's no incident.
Well, these minor traffic violations, if you these people are testing the limits, and they're being more aggressive and defiant. You just shut up and say, okay, and take your warning or your ticket, and you'll be on your way. Promise you, 10 out of 10 times. There's over 3-4 million calls for service a day in America, but we have yearly police kill 1,000 people. What would that be a year? It'd be millions of calls a year.
Yeah.
To this, bad stuff's going to happen. So it's just too bad that they're thinking like that. But luckily, I live in a state that will never get that way. It'd be very hard to leave. If I did leave, I'd probably go to Texas.
Yeah.
Not Austin, but Texas area.
Wow. So we're going to wrap this up here shortly, but what is something that you know now that you wish you knew earlier on in your career?
Something
or wish you knew at the beginning of your career?
Probably the challenges of it. Taking your home, you can't take your work home with you. Early on, I probably drank more than I should have, and I like a good beer every now and then. But I was, doing it on my days off after a long day or big case or just a lot of follow-up work. 2 to 3 casual beers slowly turned into 6 to 8, and I wasn't doing anything stupid. I wasn't driving or anything. I just didn't like the person I was becoming, so I, just got to find other avenues to get that stuff out, that stress out. For me, it's working out and reading a devotional in the morning for breakfast, or a nice book. I just bought Nate's book, Never Off Duty. That'll come in September, so I'm looking forward to that. But stuff like that, or walking the dogs, doing yard work. I love mowing the lawn. I probably put on the jean shorts and the white New Balances. I'll go out there every 2 days if I can.
Well, if you get bored, don't get long to know there. Come on to Tennessee. I'll gladly let you do mine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I ordered Nate's yesterday, as a matter of fact, so I'm looking forward to getting it as well.
Yeah, I've been talking to him here and there. He's a good guy. He's in Idaho, so he's pretty close. I told him, if you're ever in Montana, let me know. I'll buy you a beer and we'll shoot. We'll talk. So
that's awesome. And I think I was sharing with you before we started recording the podcast that my son may be stationed in Montana with the Air Force. So if I get out there, I'll be sure to look you up.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Last question, and we will let you go on this. So, if you had a magic wand and you could change anything about your job, what would it be?
Change anything about my job? Probably eliminate all the officers that are in it for the wrong reason across the U.S.
Good.
That would be great.
Yes.
Or have the media put some positive spin, on CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News every now and then.
Yeah.
But just, probably that, get the bad officers out of there and have the media go both ways. Yeah, show the bad when the officers screw up, but also show the heroics and the good. And the officer, I can't remember where, but the lady was pinned under her car, and he lifted it up to get her out. He actually lifted the car up.
Oh,
and you just didn't see it. I saw it on police1.com. Don't see it on any major network. Because it doesn't sell for them. It doesn't fit their narrative. So those would probably be the two things.
That's very cool. Well, you want to tell folks that may want to check you out on TikTok how to find you?
Yeah, it's just Officer Cortese, Cortese. I just do funny little skits. It's nothing crazy, but apparently it's popular. So if you ever want to see me goof around, that's where I'll be. Or on Instagram, it's the same way.
It is funny. I enjoy watching them. I get sucked into there, so I have to make sure I don't open up TikTok while I'm at work, because 20 minutes will be gone before you know it, just scrolling through TikTok.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to get to bed at 10, or I'll go on TikTok. Next thing I know, it's midnight. I'm like, oh my God. I was like,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for joining us on 911 What, and make sure everyone that's listening that you follow me, like the show, share it with your friends. I mean, we want to try to do our little part to change people's perception about police. And, if you like police, if you back the blue, you certainly want to check this out. But just as importantly, if you don't like police or know people that don't like police, have them check out the show as well. Maybe by us talking, we can each learn something from each other. So thank you so much for checking out 911 What, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for listening to 911 What? We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have comments or suggestions, please email us at 911what.podcast@gmail.com. And thanks to Carlos Bail Bonding and Eric Buchanan and Associates for making this episode possible.